Some guys will do anything to get noticed.
Don't be afraid, the front row is open.
You don't be shy.
I'd like to welcome everyone for coming. This is kind of a monumental day because it's the first time the North Okanagan-Shuswap EDA is going to vote a candidate for the PPC party. So everybody give a round of applause. And the other great thing about today is that we have two candidates that could represent our EDA very well. So it's nice to be able to have a competition where we actually have someone to vote for, much like Max, where we actually have something to vote for, not something to vote against. So it's just a positive thing that we have two great guys in our EDA that are willing to step forward and take us to Ottawa. So thank you very much, guys, for doing that. For those who don't know me, I'm Karen Christian. I'm the president of the North Okanagan-Shuswap EDA. Took over from Glenn Wishka, who is the British Columbia representative. So he looks after all the EDAs in BC. So thank you to Glenn for all his hard work.
Ooh,
and
yes.
for passing this job off on to me. So I would like to call the meeting to order. The time is
1:15.
1:15 we'll go with. Janora, if you could just note that for me, please, that would be great. And everyone knows the reason of the meeting. It's to elect a candidate for the North Okanagan-Shuswap to represent the People's Party of Canada. So I would like to introduce the two candidates, Kyle Delphing and Ian Tribes. So what we've done is we're going to get each of the candidates to come up and speak for 5 minutes. We're going to keep it at 5 minutes because we don't want this day to drag on. The important thing here is for voting. Most of you have had a chance to meet one or both candidates. So the other candidate is Ian Tribes. So welcome, Ian. Some other order of business is we have some people from another EDA that are going to be overseeing our voting process, just to make sure that it's fair. We have Janora Keane that's here from the Central Okanagan, as well as her friend Constance Burke. So thank you very much, ladies, for making time. So Janora will be overseeing the process to make sure all the rules are followed and that it's done in a fair manner. So without further ado, Ian Tribes, welcome.
Hello everybody, as Karen said, my name is Ian Tribes, one of the candidates for the nomination for the PPC for this riding. Quick little bio, born in 1971 in Edmonton, Alberta. It's a great place to be from. Came here in 74 with the family. My parents started up the first Boston Pizza franchise here, and that was 20 years. So I grew up in the restaurant business, spent a lot of time in it, a lot of long hours. So I know what a small business person goes through to make a living. I also tried to do other things. I was a stockbroker for a while as well. And it was really when I was doing that job that I began to kind of understand that the economy was kind of being rigged against the average person, against the Main Street economy, in favor of big business, in favor of Wall Street, in favor of government, rather than small business people who actually are the ones who make things happen and employ most people. So that was sort of the beginning of my idea of political activism and a switch toward a conservative libertarian style outlook. Also, as time went on, I began to realize that more and more restrictions were being placed on our personal behavior as well. More and more things became that we'd always done for years and never harmed anybody, never even thought about it. And all of a sudden, you could only do it in a designated area, or you couldn't do it at all, or you had to get a government license to do it, or pay a fee every year to do it. And you're restricted, you could do it here and there. And it's just too much. And this sort of coalesced and led to my current viewpoint that the government should be there basically to restrain people from harming each other, as Jefferson said many years ago, and otherwise stay out of their business. So as long as you're not committing some crime against another person, the government should not be trying to regulate or restrain you in any meaningful way. When you think about it, these people that have been arrogating themselves these powers over you are the same people who have been getting us into billions of dollars of debt. When's the last time this country had a balanced budget? Probably the 1950s sometime, maybe. And then yet these people put themselves out there as being competent enough to micromanage our lives for us. I just always felt this was a bad thing. And the only politician that I saw on the federal scene that ever talked about it was a fellow named Maxime Bernier. I would say, well, if that guy ever becomes leader of the Conservatives, I'll join the party again. It didn't work out quite so well. Backroom boys kind of gamed that against him. But when he started his own party, I said, well, I think I'm going to jump back into this game. Because finally there's a guy there that's got the right ideas and wants to actually make this country work for everybody, not just for the people with connections. Wants to make it a strong country, wants to bring back the God-given liberty that is your right as a human being. And he's the only guy out there who wants to do it. And I said, well, I will join on with that. And if I can help Max do that, make this country a free, prosperous place once again, I would like to be part of that. That's basically all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Ian. And next we have Kyle Delphin.
Hi there, as Karen said, I'm Kyle Delphin. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life, how I got here, and why I want to run for the PPC. So I grew up in Winnipeg. I was born in 1986. That's the year of the tiger. So us tigers are pretty courageous people, and doesn't matter what obstacles you put in front of us, we're always going to knock them down and get the job done, which, if you ask me, is a good characteristic for government. Amanda and I moved here in 2013, as my career at the time allowed me to. The job I took here, it only lasted about a year. So we found ourselves kind of wondering, what are we going to do? And at the time, the economy wasn't as good. There was just haphazard jobs everywhere. So I spent the summer just looking for jobs. And I figured, I'll start my own moving company. I know it very well. So I started a moving company here in Vernon. You might have heard it, Schubert Moving. We went from about 165 moves a year to 918 moves a year. And we did this because I believe in humans and companies, we have to have principles. And the same thing goes for organizations like the People's Party. So I had a few set principles, we stuck to them, and the people, they appreciate it. We just make sure we take care of everybody, we don't mess up their belongings, and we treat them really good. As far as my politics goes, the reason I got into politics is my grandfather grew up in Germany in the 1930s, and he told me one thing: watch the government, because they're always going to do one thing with this hand, but then do a completely different thing with that hand, right? They're always taking and putting it over there and telling you they're not doing what they're really doing, but they are. So as I watched our government through the 90s, through the 2000s, I watched my parents go from middle-class people on the upper end to lower middle class people, making more money than they were in 2000 and 2016. I started to think to myself, there is something seriously wrong with this country. And that was after the election, the last one with Justin Trudeau. And we all know what he's done to this country. We're running deficits like we're living on a credit card, which none of us can do in our homes. It doesn't matter if you're liberal, NDP, or green, you can't be nothing but a fiscal conservative. And I believe that policy of fiscal conservatism, like Maxine is bringing forward, would help this country get ahead. I mean, we all know, being here, that the last two parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives, for the last 151 years, all they've been doing, switching sides, going back and forth, saying, we'll give you these taxes back, but we're going to take taxes here. And then we're going to give a few million, and we're going to put it into the pockets of our friends. And you know what? It's not working for us anymore. So that's why we're here at the People's Party. Maxine, he spent the last 10 years in government fighting from the inside, trying to get a whole new direction from the Conservative Party, but they resisted because, like he says, they're morally corrupt. So he needs people like us, the People's Party, to come together and help him form a new government for this country. And I want to be a part of that. I feel that my generation, we're kind of like Generation Screwed, right? Like I see a lot of people here, baby boomers and Generation X. You guys had not an easy crack at life, but a lot easier than we do now. If you look at inflation over the last 20 years, they're telling us 2.65% annually, but if you get off of the list that they're using, you're going anywhere between 10 and 40%, depending on the products that you're purchasing. But they're like shoes, milk, bread, that hasn't gone up. So it's okay, right? But it's not. And that's why I want to join Max. He's standing there saying, the dairy cartel, they gotta go. When the wheat board was on its way out and people were running around the prairies screaming, we're going to lose our farms, we're going to lose our way of life. Did it happen? No. Why? We have farmers today who are university educated, electronically connected, and they can talk to the world faster from their backyard through their device, and they can't call in a stockbroker or a wheat board or anything else. They can sell their products better, they know the products better. So if we take the dairy and poultry cartel and dismantle it in a fashionable way like we did with the wheat board, I'm pretty sure Canadian consumers would benefit. And those are little policies that the other parties are not willing to attack. They're looking at it going, I'll lose 12,000 voters here, I'll lose 15,000 voters there. I can't talk to them because this lobby group already told me that I'll pay you X amount of dollars and make sure these donors help you get to where you need to be, which is why we're in the People's Party of Canada. The People's Party of Canada has almost nothing for donors. If you look at the Conservatives, they'll do a weekend campaign, $8.5 million, like that. We're struggling to get $300,000. So the only thing we have is human capital. We have to come together and we have to work together really hard. Because there's only 142 days before the election. And 142 days is not a long time for 127,000 people to hear the message of this writing. There's over 50,000 doors that we've got to knock on, but you can't do that. So we're going to have to work together and talk to our friends and our family. But the most important thing is to talk to strangers. So if you can talk to strangers and just give them the idea that there's another party out there, they'll look for it. You know, I was at somebody's house the other night with my company. I'm telling you, we dropped the ball. Two employees down that day, so we were about 3 or 4 hours late. And we showed up to a place where the couple had already had a heart attack from the man's side. The female had injury to her wrist. She couldn't work for a year. They're losing their house. They don't want to move. They didn't tell me that, but they don't want to move. And there's a lot of stuff going on in their life that the governments of the past pretty much set them up for failure. It's not entirely their fault. I'm not going to say that it isn't their fault. But with the medical conditions and waiting for a year, not being able to go to work because the doctors won't clear them, that's a problem. So when you look at our healthcare system, from 2006 to 2019, we go from $20 billion to $40 billion. But our standard of service goes down and down and down. I know there's people in here that I've actually talked to about their personal healthcare problems and how over the years they've noticed from the age of a young person to an adult that their service is taking 2 or 3 times longer and they're not getting the same specialists they used to get, and it's not helping them. So, sorry, I'll just wrap it up quickly. The reason I want to go to Ottawa is when I built this company, all I had was door to door. I had $380, okay? So no money, just human capital. It's just charisma and character and a good policy, and that's what I feel this company is. It's charisma, character, and a good policy. It's all of us who know what's wrong, that want to get to Ottawa and update the ways we do business down there to make sure that we're not giving billions of dollars away to corporations anymore and we're saving Canadians instead of saving corporations.
Well done.
Can I get both of you up here right now? We're going to do a short Q&A period. If you guys have any questions for the candidates, we'll try and keep it 15 to 20 minutes max, but we'll see how the questions go. Go ahead. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the most essential characters of a society is who creates the currency for it. And Bank Canada used to create the money for Canada for infrastructure programs, and we went away from that. So it's just wanted to get each one of your guys' brief comment on how important the issuance of currency is for a country.
For sure. I agree, currency is probably the most important economic issue, and the weakness of the currency is a major issue right now. The Bank of Canada does still create the Canadian currency to a great extent, also through the other banks. But then every time the government borrows money, every time they have a bond auction, that's creating money as well. You know, we don't think about that so much. Even every time a new mortgage is written or a new loan is written, that's actually currency being created as well in the form of credit. And there has been quite a boom in that. That has also contributed to the currency weakening somewhat. But I think you hit on a good point that what you're saying is the currency needs to be a little stronger, I presume. And that it needs to be a little more certain for people. I would agree with that 100%.
Correct me if I'm wrong, are you looking to see what my opinion is on the currency no longer being a sovereign currency? It's just it's run by international banks and it's pretty much based on monetary systems worldwide. Is that
Right, yeah. Like a
Okay.
small group of global operators are creating all the currency.
Of course. That's kind of like the way the economy's been for thousands of years.
Yeah.
There's always been a handful of people that run it. So
Right.
if we were to revert back to where you're thinking, like 1934, I think we would probably go into the caveman era. We would have a hard time dealing with our clients and customers outside of this country. But we could do better to be a little bit more competitive with our currency. Things like he's talking about cheap money, that's got to disappear. The cheap money is the biggest problem we have in this country. That's why we have inflation under control.
Thanks. Makes sense. Go ahead.
When I came to this country in 1976, I had to come as a fully qualified tradesman papers, the whole thing, and when I got here, they said you've got 30 days to maintain the job. You fail and you're back to the old country. Now that's what, all kinds of medicals, and I came and I got my family here. Now that, I'm told, is how Canada used to do business. But I feel that over the years, it has deteriorated, and there didn't seem to be much of a criteria anymore. What do you guys think about the immigration system as it stands today?
Well, I think it could definitely go back to something more similar to what you experienced. A little more economically based, skills based as well, but also the main criteria should be that a person wants to come here to become a Canadian in attitude as well as in legal fact. In other words, to basically adopt the idea that you go through life making your living, live and let live. If the guy beside you practices a different religion or another lifestyle, that's his business. As long as you don't bother each other, it's no problem. But we have to be careful that people aren't coming here to bring all the things that made their own countries unpleasant, unlivable places over here.
Could you read more?
Thank you.
I think one of the issues with our immigration system is it's been confused with an asylum system and with the migration system. The immigration system is almost the same as it was when you came here. I have a lot of friends that are immigrants. My family is from Germany. A lot of friends from Serbia, Croatia. They came here from Bosnia in the 1990s, late 1990s. The asylum seekers, they get judged and then they get asylum based on what they would go home to. The migrants, they're coming here illegally and they're welcomed by this current administration. And I think if our party got elected, we would stop that. Because right now what we have is about a 4-year backlog in the migrants asylum seeking because they're not legitimately seeking asylum. As far as the immigration system goes, Canadian immigration has pretty much been that way for a long time. I do know a few people that have been denied entry to Canada because they didn't have the values that they wanted. But we have these people that are swimming the borders. So I would leave immigration somewhat what it is, but I would attack the asylum seekers and the illegal migration and make sure that we have maybe a deal with the U.S. to kind of get it into an orderly fashion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then you on.
Right now, obviously, with both the Liberal and the Conservative parties, they operate by partisan vote on everything in the House of Parliament. Will the People's Party of Canada allow the members of Parliament vote for the constituents that they represent?
Simple answer, yes. Absolutely yes. There's no party line until here. You're free to stand up with your individual ideas, and you can even bring your own policies to the party. The only requirement is that 66% of the party agrees to the policy before it brings forward to the House.
Correct. Having talked with Maxime last week about something similar, I think he's the last guy in the world that's likely to try and whip a vote. I can't see it. He doesn't want a bunch of trained seals there, a bunch of yes men. He wants an actual conversation. That's the only way to ever get things worked out, is by having an actual conversation. So I think you don't have to worry about that.
Thanks, guys.
Good news. Thank you.
So I have a question for both of you, same question. I know that Maxime has said that some issues will come up in the House if he's Prime Minister and they come up in the House, that he will allow an open, free vote. And so my question is related to abortion. Could I hear what your opinions are in the event that it is a free vote?
Well, at this time, there is no legislation concerning abortion in this country, no federal. It was struck down in 88 or 89, if I remember, by the Supreme Court, and it was just sort of left there ever since. That in itself is a problem. Allowing unelected judges to make law or to just negate law and leave with nothing is not a good thing. As far as abortion goes, I don't think anybody wants to go back to the days when you had backroom abortions with people with questionable medical skill performing them. But a situation where right at the moment of birth it can be performed is not really that great either. If you look at most of the European countries, most of them after the first trimester it becomes more difficult to legally acquire one. And it's something that we should be debating. And I would agree, personally I'll say flat out, I would agree with some limitations on it after the first trimester. Up till then it can be full choice, but after that I would say there's definitely, it's starting to be a human being in there. And if government doesn't look after a human being's life, it's probably not much use. The government, that is.
Thank you.
Touchy subject. Canada, we allow people to practice their religions. That's kind of, in Canada, we allow people to practice their religion. It's kind of freedom of choice. Abortion, again, kind of goes to where you're coming from as far as religion or secular. My opinion on it, there should be stages. There should be stages, to be honest with you. The first stage can be pro-choice, 100%. Second stage, questionable, which it already is in British Columbia. You have to go through a little bit of a rigmarole to get to the second stage. Third stage, like you said, it comes to human life and it becomes questionable, right?
Sorry.
I don't
Can you
think
speak
you'll
up a
find
little
me.
bit, please?
I don't think you'll find me bringing it forward as a motion myself, and it would be a very difficult one to argue in the House, being that we consider ourselves a society that accepts everybody's views and beliefs, so we're going to take an emotionally charged issue and put it into politics, which might not actually benefit everybody. The ruling he's referring to, 1988, was a ruling on a court case in 1969. The court case in 69 granted abortion rights in Canada, but you had to do it in front of a panel of doctors. In 1988, the Supreme Court ruled it to be unconstitutional. So the Constitution of Canada, as it stands right now, as that ruling stands, says that you have the right to pro-choice in this country. And that's where we are, and that's why people haven't touched it.
A little further on the question. In the event that you poll your constituents, will you vote their primary choice, or will you vote your opinion?
I think majority rules in this country.
Sorry?
Majority rules in this country, so as a representative of this riding, I would have to go with the majority of the constituents because that would be my job as a politician. I am your voice. I'm not here to form my opinions and impose them on you. I'm here to take your opinions and impose them on Ottawa.
If it were an official, actual referendum, I would certainly vote the way that the constituents of this riding cast in there. Polling is a little bit unreliable. I don't think you can take an internet or even a telephone poll as being truly representative. It's impossible to do. But if it was an official referendum, which maybe wouldn't be a bad idea, have a national referendum on it, and then each MP would be sort of bound to vote by however the constituents in his riding voted. That would certainly be how I would go about that. Not from a poll, though. As you know, polling is pretty inaccurate.
Thank you, Ian. Is there any other questions? Anyone have anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
For someone who feels very aligned with Maxine and the People's Party, is afraid that a vote for them might elect another Liberal government, how are you going to respond to them?
Well, I would respond that people often compare it to the Reform Party. We all remember, well, some of us are old enough to remember the 1990s when Reform swept the West and were blamed for so-called splitting the Conservative vote, which they didn't really do that. What really happened is that where the Reform Party had organized and was well organized and fielded credible candidates, they pretty much took that vote. And the Progressive vote, the Kim Campbell's party, pretty much fell apart. They haven't really organized effectively east of Manitoba, and not to any great extent, which is why we saw people there simply abandon the Progressive Conservatives, added on the GST, if you remember, and go Liberal. I clearly remember sitting in a bar in Toronto in 2003, listening to two guys at the table over, talk conservative, full-on red meat conservative politics the whole time. And they said, yeah, I like that man, he was a good guy, but you know what? Can't let a bunch of Western rednecks run the country. That was finished. And that was part of the problem too, is that they were perceived as being a Western party. This party is organized from Newfoundland to BC, all the way up north, all over the country. This party is organized. It's got support in every province. It's poised to actually take that right of center, that common sense vote away from the Conservative Party of Canada and possibly from the Liberals and even from the NDP as well. Just people that want the country run on the basis of common sense and want the government to basically stick to its constitutional duties, stay out of your personal business, and keep the train turning on time and the potholes filled, as they say.
Okay, Pat?
Splitting the vote insinuates that one political party is entitled to a vote. So in my opinion, if you vote for the People's Party of Canada, you like our policy and our politics. If you vote for the Conservative Party, you like their policy and politics. Neither of us is entitled to your vote. Therefore, there's no such thing as splitting the vote. The left has three. They got the Greens, the NDP, and the Liberals, and they almost got the Conservatives now. So, I mean, let's face it, is it really splitting the vote, or is he splitting the party?
Go ahead, sir.
So, after this vote today, are you both going to work together to have this constituency become, well, or that everybody's going to know about PPC and so on?
Yep.
I think that'd be the best interest.
Yeah.
I have a question. What will you do if you lose?
Continue to support the party and support the winning candidate.
Same, man. It's about the party.
What's the
I just
question?
want to be the face.
I just said, what would they do if when one of them loses? What's their plan afterwards? Like, are they going to stick with the party and help and still be 100% on board?
Absolutely.
Party is about principles, really, not about personalities. That's another big thing that differentiates us from the others.
Well done.
Glenn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. What I'd like to find out is from either of the candidates, if you do become the candidate for the PPC, what are the two most important messages that you think we have to bring to the voters in this constituency to allow the PPC to not only have a good showing, but to allow us to become elected and become candidates who are now going to be a member of parliament? What are the two most important messages that you want to see the PPC and yourselves bring to this constituency that's going to help get you elected?
Well, number one being the Okanagan has a very high percentage of self-employed individuals and small businesses. I think our tax plan is definitely better. Capital cost allowance is something that myself as a business owner, I know I would take much more advantage of if it was open to much more of my equipment. As far as the other policy, it would probably be opening up the trade barriers. Because right now, as it stands, we can sell our wine to Alberta when they're happy with us. We can sell it to the world, but my friends and family in Manitoba, they can't get it right. So I think if we took the fact that we make 33% of Canada's wine and took down the trade barriers, we could send it out to Canada and increase our volume. We could probably increase jobs here in the Vernon. There's so many wineries and orchards.
For me, it's number one would be the significant changes and reductions to tax, particularly income tax and capital gains tax, the elimination of it. And on the other, just the restoration of personal liberty, getting bureaucrats and governments out of your personal life, stop regulating everybody's behavior, and just live and let them. That's basically the message I would take.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, climate change, climate warming, climate, that's going to be a big issue in the whole campaign. Something I have not heard from anybody is anybody addressing the geoengineering, which NASA has said, yes, it's happening. Scientists have said, yes, it's happening. The US and Canadian governments have a treaty about it, and yet it's happening around us every day. It's getting, the chemicals that have been disclosed as being rained down on us every day into our water, into our forests. How come that isn't part of the debate for geoengineering being part of the debate about climate change that we keep on being told is so important?
Well, that would be a sort of a separate issue. That would involve real pollutants being released in the atmosphere, which of course none of us wants to see. Similarly, there are still several cities around the country that dump their raw sewage into the local water bodies. Those are the kind of environmental issues we should be looking at, not unproven things like this climate change or what have you. There's no question climate changes over time, but no one has ever actually shown proof that we're causing it to any significant extent. And we're not going to destroy the economy in order to placate a couple of rather loud environmental lobbyists. At the same time, we should also be saving ourselves a lot of money by not funding all these NGOs, supposed non-governmental organizations, who in fact make most of their income off of taxpayer funding. We'll get rid of them, but you're quite right. If there are things being dumped, literally toxic chemicals being dumped again, that should be looked into for sure. That's a more important kind of environmentalism than this other climate change activism, which has become more of an industry than anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel climate change is much more politicized than it needs to be. As far as the pollutants in the atmosphere that you're talking about, probably not being addressed because there's not many studies out there that are government funded and actually accredited, so it's not being talked about within our party. It's not something we can talk about for the sake of voters, I would understand. As far as climate change goes, watching Max speaking with Patrick Moore and what they were talking about, you know, it was a great presentation, kind of put the stories aside and came down to the facts and said, listen, this is what we need to do, and of course there is pollution. We all know about the acid rain back in the 70s and 80s around Illinois. They cleaned that up, and we can only do what we can see, so I think that we'll always make sure that there's a good environmental policy here, but we're not going to pander to the politics of climate change.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we're going to wrap it up and start the voting. I'd just like to say that no matter who wins today, I think we've got a hell of a team going here.
Yes.
In North Okanagan-Shuswap. So, round of applause. I thought we'd kick off the balloting by getting both the candidates to vote first. So, Ian, would you like to go first?
I'd like to see some identification.
There's pens on there.
Nothing like being just it's always made it just in time. He said it's a really important part. Well, I like to hear him speak. Obviously, I'm working.
Once you've voted, if you have any other questions for the candidates, they're going to just mill around outside and just ask that they only talk to you after you've voted. Just try and keep it the way it should be done. So. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate it.
Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on up. Sit down.
That's fine. I didn't fly into the
I thought you'd gone away.
We're up to 217 now. 217.
Have you found out anything further about that?
I haven't heard about it at all. So I'll speak to you this week. I'm just going to recommend sending in the application and kind of seeing how it plays out. And then if they get back to us, and if they don't, yeah, it's just going to be one of those kind of.
And is there a contact person there that you can?
Generic email, and I wasn't able to get the phone number, but I'll give them a call on Monday as well. Just to, yeah.